The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected.
Today begins the formal process of accountability, where this defendant will begin his journey through the criminal justice system.
After years of no new leads, the FBI makes a startling arrest in the search for the 2021 political pipe bomber. How the feds broke the case open.
I didn't see anything disturbing about it. What's disturbing to me is that millions of Americans have died from drugs being run to America by these cartels.
Admiral Bradley on Capitol Hill for a classified hearing for the double-tap boat strike. Why Congress members say they are seeing two very different outcomes from the same exact video. And then winter continues to come early for millions of America who across the country Americans are under an Arctic blast. How long the sub-zero temperatures will last.
Early this morning, Brian Cole Jr. was arrested and charged with placing the pipe bombs at the RNC and the DNC on January 5th, 2021.
Breaking news tonight. Approaching 5 years later, the 2021 D.C. pipe bomb suspect is finally in custody. Good evening. I'm Taylor Murray. Welcome to the National News Desk, America's News Now. On January 5th, 2021, an unidentified male planted pipe bombs near the Republican and Democratic National Committee headquarters the night before the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot. While investigators previously asked for the public's help, releasing this grainy security video showing the suspect in a hoodie, gloves, and face mask. Attorney General Pam Bondi today saying there was nothing new that led officers to Brian Cole Jr.
Let me be clear. There was no new tip. There was no new witness. Just good, diligent police work and prosecutorial work.
National News Desk Nick Minock has the latest outside DOJ headquarters in Washington, D.C. on this case that has been developing throughout the day.
This case has been sitting cold for nearly 5 years. The FBI says it went through more than 3 million pieces of data to find the suspect. Now, Brian Cole Jr. is facing federal charges of use of an explosive device.
Folks, you're not going to walk into our capital city, put down 2 explosive devices, and walk off in the sunset. Not going to happen. We were going to track this person to the end of the earth. There was no way he was getting away.
But authorities said they didn't have to track the suspect to the end of the earth. They found the suspect living in Woodbridge, Virginia, just outside the nation's capital. The U.S. Department of Justice identifying the man as 30-year-old Brian Cole Jr. Authorities say this surveillance video shows the suspect on January 5th, 2021, placing bombs in the Capitol Hill neighborhood. One pipe bomb was placed behind the headquarters of the Republican National Committee, and the other was placed next to a park bench near the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee. Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel said there wasn't a new tip that led to the arrest of the suspect. Instead, they say FBI investigators found forensic evidence out of millions of pieces of data, which led to the arrest.
It is a huge win because it was like finding a needle in a haystack. So much of this evidence was very specific, but a lot of it was also very general. For example, there were 233,000 black end caps of the type that were used in this case. I want you to think about the fact that the FBI had to go through the sale of every one of them to try to find commonality with an individual, along with the purchase of the pipe itself.
Federal authorities said if the bombs exploded, they could have caused significant harm.
Thanks to all of the people standing around me. They have worked tirelessly on this. Today's arrest happened because the Trump administration has made this case a priority.
Right now, the FBI says it's executing search warrants and more charges could be on the way. Reporting in Washington, D.C. for the National News Desk, I'm Nick Minock.
Admiral Frank Bradley was on Capitol Hill today to brief Congress on the disputed September 2nd boat strike of narco terrorists. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth says Admiral Bradley made the call to hit the target a second time, although he stands by that decision. Republican Senator Tom Cotton says the video supports that claim, while Democratic Representative Jim Hines says he disagrees and thinks it may have been a war crime.
I want to thank Admiral Bradley and General Kane for coming to brief about the strikes on September 2nd, which were righteous strikes. These are narco-terrorists who are trafficking drugs that are destined for the United States to kill thousands of Arkansans and millions of Americans.
But what I saw in that room was one of the most troubling things I've seen in my time in public service. You have two individuals in clear distress, without any means of locomotion, with a destroyed vessel, who were killed by the United States.
Congressman Himes wants the full video made public, something President Donald Trump says he's okay with. Well, last night, ABC News reported military attorneys were in the room with the admiral when the strike happened. The outlet reports they saw the surviving members of that boat attempting to salvage possible drugs, they say, from the attack and communicate with others, and were not just floating in the water. The report says this could have made them legal targets. Meanwhile, the United States Embassy in Caracas, Venezuela, has issued a new travel advisory for the country. They are telling all U.S. citizens, quote, do not travel to or remain in Venezuela due to the high risk of wrongful detention, torture in detention, terrorism, kidnapping, arbitrary enforcement of local laws, crime, civil unrest, and poor health infrastructure. All U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents in Venezuela are strongly advised to depart immediately. Minneapolis Chief of Police has confirmed that ICE agents have been working both in Minneapolis as well as St. Paul. Reports stated operations may have begun yesterday, days after President Trump spoke about getting Somalis out of the country. But Chief O'Hara told CNN immigration enforcement has been going in the Twin Cities for some time.
It's been obvious even before this week that there was an increase in immigration enforcement activity in Minnesota. We've just had an increase in reports from the community, both 911 calls and also people sending us videos and concerns of enforcement that's happening in the city.
The police chief also saying there were two major arrests recently in St. Paul. In one incident, local citizens called in law enforcement because they were concerned there were individuals carrying firearms. Now, Chief O'Hara also said the heightened presence of immigration agents is putting a strain on the community. Well, the Wisconsin Supreme Court will hear a case challenging local jails detaining migrants for ICE. The ACLU sued 5 Wisconsin counties, claiming it is illegal for local jails to house federal immigration suspects. Under an ICE detainer request, a local sheriff could keep a detainee under arrest for 48 hours to allow ICE agents more time to come and take custody. So far this year, ICE agents have issued at least 700 detainer requests in Wisconsin. The court says they will have a decision by the middle of next year. The tragic death of a Texas A&M student has officially been ruled a suicide. 19-year-old Brianna Aguilera was found last Saturday morning outside of a high-rise apartment building with injuries consistent with trauma from a high fall.
Our investigation has revealed that unfortunately Brianna had made suicidal comments previously to friends back in October of this year. This continued through the evening of her death, with some self-harming actions earlier in the evening and a text message to another friend indicating the thought of suicide.
Witnesses say Brianna had attended a tailgate party earlier in the night before being kicked out. They also say she had a short argument with her boyfriend at 12:43 a.m. Saturday. That call ending 2 minutes before someone called 911. Her family has hired a private attorney to investigate, saying they do not believe Brianna was suicidal. An upheaval in the childhood vaccine schedule could be on the horizon. The CDC's Vaccine Advisory Panel plans to vote tomorrow on whether the hepatitis B vaccine should still be given to all newborns. Now, the advisors postponed that vote today because some wanted more time to review the proposal. Experts disagree on whether the hepatitis vaccine is safe and necessary for everyone. The Federal Reserve is poised to meet next week with another possible rate cut looming. But the latest labor reports indicate weakness in the economy. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar has more from Washington on why some say this data is good news.
New data about the job market paints a bleak picture for the American worker. The number of layoffs is so high, more than 1.1 million so far this year, the country hasn't seen anything like it since the beginning of the pandemic. Outplacement firm Challenger Gray & Christmas says this is a 54% increase from this point last year. And that's not all.
If you look at where the losses came in, it was for firms with headcount under 50.
Neela Richardson, chief economist for ADP, says what they observed last month is a canary in a coal mine. The private sector unexpectedly shedding 32,000 jobs. If there's all this bad news about the job market, why isn't the stock market or the White House showing any real concern?
That's nailed on a Fed rate cut for next week.
Rate cut hopes next week are on the up.
Market's certainly pricing in a 1/4 percentage point rate cut.
The odds of an interest rate cut when the Federal Reserve meets next week for its final meeting of 2025 have gone up significantly. Now an 87% probability, according to CME FedWatch. This jobs data adds to the case that of the Fed's two mandates, keeping inflation under control and employment high, the latter is now a bigger worry and calls for lower interest rates to buoy economic activity. Even Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent made this rare admission about the economy.
Do you think it's weakening right now?
I think that certain sectors are, and maybe it goes back to the reason we need interest rate cuts.
Even though high inflation is by no means over, more interest rate cuts are expected after President Trump appoints the next Fed chair early next year. This week, he hinted at who he'll pick.
I guess a potential Fed chair is here, too. I don't know. Are we allowed to say that? Potential. He's a respected person, that I can tell you. Thank you, Kevin.
The president referring to Kevin Hassett, the current director of his National Economic Council. And Hassett says he's willing to do the job if asked. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
Coming up, economic and peace deals signed, both brokered by President Trump. The two African nations that are promising to lay down their weapons and to do business with the U.S. Then more and more attention is focused on Minnesota, how Congress is responding to accusations of widespread fraud. Plus, health insurance costs could skyrocket for millions of Americans soon. The potential solution from Republicans and Democrats. We'll be right back. Here's a look at the White House. Another historic peace and economic deal brokered by President Donald Trump between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo today. Called the Washington Accords, the peace deal is aimed at ending a decades-long conflict in the region and includes a permanent ceasefire. And now, back in June, the foreign ministers of both African nations signed a similar preliminary agreement at the White House, but fighting escalated with each side accusing the other of violating the terms. The United States also signed a rare earths deal with Congo and Rwanda today to access both countries' critical minerals. President Trump spoke about it during the signing ceremony from the newly renamed Donald J. Trump U.S. Institute of Peace.
And we'll be involved with sending some of our biggest and greatest companies over to the two countries, and we're going to take out some of the rare earth and take out some of the assets and pay, and everybody's going to make a lot of money.
Congo is the world's top producer of cobalt, used in rechargeable batteries and electronics and electronic vehicles, and the second largest producer of copper. Well, lawmakers on Capitol Hill say they want more information about years of fraud being committed by Minnesota residents, the vast majority Somali Americans. The investigations have gotten the attention of the president. The National News Desk, Christine Frizzau, has more.
The Somali community in Minnesota, top of mind in recent days for President Donald Trump.
These Somalians have taken billions of dollars out of our country. They've taken billions and billions of dollars.
The president appearing to refer to recent investigations showing widespread fraud in Minnesota. The majority of those charged, members of the Somali community, including the case of Feeding Our Future, a false charity said to be providing meals given $250 million under the federal child nutrition program.
Hundreds of millions of dollars were diverted, again, by several dozen Somali nationals who took the money they were supposed to be using to feed children and, in fact, were pocketing for criminal instances.
There are more examples, not only of fraud perpetrated by those in the Somali community, most of whom are U.S. citizens, but of a concerted effort by government officials to cover it up.
The corruption went on and on and on for years because there was this climate of fear of wanting to raise these issues. They're concerned about, maybe being called racist or bigoted.
House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer sending letters to Minnesota's governor and attorney general, seeking information about why state regulators were reluctant to take action in response to allegations involving the Somali community, and related to accusations the Department of Human Services deleted data to cover up the rampant fraud. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who is herself Somali American and represents the region in Congress, was asked how the fraud got so out of control.
I just think that a lot of the COVID programs that were set up, they were set up so quickly that a lot of the guardrails did not get created.
Federal prosecutors have already said more indictments in these Minnesota cases are coming. It will be front and center on Capitol Hill and in Minnesota, where Governor Tim Walz is running for a third term. I'm Christine Frizzau for the National News Desk.
Millions of people across the U.S. are experiencing below freezing temperatures today due to a surge of Arctic air that's unusual for this time of year. There were multiple reports of low temperature records being broken in states like Iowa and Illinois. And more records could be broken tomorrow morning in the Midwest and Northeast. It'll continue to be snowy in parts of the Great Lakes, Northeast, and Pacific Northwest over the next couple of days. More shoppers are using the Buy Now, Pay Later feature this holiday season, a strategy economists say can be a slippery slope. Now, according to Adobe Analytics, Buy Now, Pay Later services have driven over $10 billion in spending since September. That's a 9% increase from last year. PayPal says its Buy Now, Pay Later transactions increased 23% in the days leading up to Black Friday. Well, Russian President Vladimir Putin is now saying Russia will seize the Donbas region of eastern Ukraine in any case, including militarily. Russia currently has the area annexed but not fully conquered. Ukraine doesn't want to cede any land to Russia in a peace deal. Putin also says Russia does not agree with some of the points in President Trump's peace deal. Talks are ongoing between Russia, Ukraine, and U.S. officials. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter to you. We're taking the pulse of America, and we start in Rhode Island, where a suspect in a years-long robbery spree has finally been arrested.
A years-long crime spree finally rerouted by police.
Very scary.
Body cam footage obtained by NBC 10 shows Cranston police arresting 36-year-old Kivery Alston outside his Amazon-branded delivery truck Tuesday night.
To make any sudden moves, you could be shot, okay?
You can still see him wearing his Amazon jacket. Amazon tells us it's looking into it, noting drivers are hired by outside partner companies or work as independent contractors.
Coming out of Amazon, so he's leaving Amazon. That's the last thing you would expect because everybody does everything by Amazon now. And that's what's pretty scary.
Cranston police say Alston is a suspect in at least 6 robberies in their city and more than a dozen across Johnston, Providence, and Woonsocket.
Well, Washington, D.C. homeowner Roshann Douglas says she's in the fight of her life trying to get a squatter out of her house. Shadija Romero got into the house through Airbnb in February. Douglas accepted Romero's reservation, which ended March 29th. But Romero started to claim residency and now refuses to let Douglas into her own home. Douglas has tried everything from calling the police to going to court.
It's infuriating. I have a $4,000 a month mortgage. All the utilities are in my name. All of the responsibilities are on me, and I can't get into my property. There's a leak in the property. The water bill is escalating. I can't get in there to see what's going on, and I'm the only one responsible for the home, and I can't get any help. I went to court to try to get an expedited order because she's threatened me. She's made fictitious calls to the police over 15 times, and I still can't get any help.
Wow, Douglas is waiting for a court date next week and hopes the judge will let the U.S. Marshals force the unwelcome guest out once and for all. Oh, boy. All right, coming up, the alarming information uncovered in a new report on Obamacare and the looming problem of skyrocketing health insurance costs right after this. Tennessee Congressman Matt Van Epps was sworn in today to finish the term of former Republican Congressman Mark Green, who retired earlier this year to take a private sector job. Van Epps won a special election Tuesday night, defeating a progressive candidate in Afton Bain. In his first speech today, Congressman Van Epps spoke about following the president's message.
I will work every day with President Trump and my colleagues in this House to deliver on the America First agenda. Our constituents are looking for results. The people of Tennessee didn't send me here to just give a speech. They sent me here to deliver, and that is exactly what I intend to do.
Critics of House Speaker Mike Johnson condemn him for swearing in Congressman Van Epps 2 days after his victory while waiting 50 days to swear in Arizona Congresswoman Adelita Grijalva. It is worth noting the House was adjourned when she won a special election back in September, and Representative Grijalva was then sworn in last month, the first day members were back in session after the government shutdown. All right, well, time is running out for Congress to find an answer on health care costs as millions of Americans covered under the Affordable Care Act face skyrocketing coverage costs at the end of the year. National correspondent Matt Gelko reports from Washington.
The nonpartisan Government Accountability Office made up 20 fake people to try and get Affordable Care Act coverage heading into 2025. The office's new report showed as of September, 18 still had coverage, with the government paying insurance companies $10,000 a month for the fake enrollees' enhanced premium tax credits. Republicans say the report is a smoking gun for a broken system.
If you're going to have all of these subsidies flying out, you're going to have rampant fraud. And look, importantly, Democrats have been saying we need to give more money to insurance companies.
Nearly 20 million Americans have the enhanced premium subsidies that make health care more affordable and are set to expire at the end of the year. The program costs more than $120 billion and was at the center of the recent government shutdown, with Democrats advocating to get them extended as millions face skyrocketing health care coverage costs. The GAO's report also found potentially misused and overused Social Security numbers throughout the system, along with numbers for dead people still receiving coverage. While critics say the report shows how easy it is to defraud the system, the problem of health care costs remains for millions.
Enough. We have a responsibility before the end of the year to pass a bill that will address the issue of health care costs in this country.
A bipartisan group of 35 House Republicans and Democrats pitched their solution to the looming problem. Their bill would extend the premium tax credits for 2 years with a future vote on further reforms.
The affordability crisis is crippling the American dream, and we have to act. Healthcare costs are the number one issue that American families are struggling with every single day.
There's no indication yet that bill will even get a vote. Meanwhile, Senate Democrats are looking to force a vote next week on a 3-year extension of the subsidies. It would need 60 votes to pass, but it's unlikely it would have enough Republican support. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka.
Any moment now, the President and First Lady will be attending the annual National Christmas Tree lighting near the White House. You're taking a look at that now. The celebration includes tens of thousands of lights, live performances. The tree is a red spruce from Virginia. There are also smaller trees to symbolize every state and territory. All right, that does it for this edition of the National News Desk. We invite you to join us again this evening. I'm Taylor Murray. Thanks for watching.